Good morning, students. I'm Mrs. Sunitra Pathak, and I'll be conducting English lecture for you. Today we shall start with literature of standard 10th. The first poem that we have in literature is Where the Mind is Without Fear, written by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. Before we start with the poem, there are a few words which describe human characteristic or human nature, human behavior. Those words, why are they important? As I teach you the poem, you will be able to connect those words with the poet and the poem. The first word we have is humanism. Humanism means having compassionate, caring, loving, helping nature towards another human being. Same way, the second word that we have here is patriotism. Patriotism is a word which defines a person's love for his or her own country. Love for the country does not mean that I love my country, I will go and destroy all other countries. No. Patriotism means you love and respect your country and you acquire love and respect for your country by respecting all nations of the world. You just yourself don't respect, but you take the name of your country that high that everyone respects you, you gather respect for your country. To do so, you must have compassionate feeling towards others also. And that is where comes in the word internationalism. Building international relations. Considering the human being of any nationality respectfully. Being compassionate towards others. Building good relation with all the nations. That is known as internationalism. Then you have liberalism. Liberalism means being liberal in nature. Liberal means open-minded, not narrow-minded. Narrow-minded means you are a very discriminative person. This is good for girls, that is bad for boys. This should be this is a culture defining to that particular religion. Now this is a behavior of people of that country. So you are discriminating, always discriminating on the basis of nationality, language, religion, gender. If you are a discriminative person, you cannot be of liberal mind. A person who is of a liberal mind will not believe in any kind of discrimination. Then you have the word environmentalism. That environmentalism means you are not a selfish person. You are loving, caring towards the nature around you, the environment around you. You consider yourself to be a part of the environment. You don't think that is the environment and this is me. No. You think I am a part of the environment. The entire environment is my home. So I should love it. I should care for it. I should keep it clean. I should see to it that every living thing in the environment is mine. Here I would like to tell you about something. In most of the religion, it is believed that God made nature first. On earth, God created plants, God created animals, and then finally God was confused. I have created this beautiful nature, but who will take care of this nature? So then God imagined a nice human character and thought, oh, this is going to be a wonderful character. I am going to send this person on earth, create human being who will take care of the entire environment. So mythologically, if we think, then God the creator has actually made man to care for environment. So we all should follow or walk on the path of environmentalism. If we consider science, then too, life started with plants, then animals, then first aquatic, then amphibians, then terrestrial, and finally the most evolved, the last and the most evolved character is human being. So here we again come back, if we see, then if we are the most evolved ones, it is our responsibility to take care of all the other human beings. So either way, whether you think mythologically or you think things scientifically, environmentalism is a prime character which every human being should have, must have. Now these are few of the human characteristics, human behavioral terms that we have learned here. Now we will shift to the original poem. So first I will talk to you about the poet Rabindranath Tagore. In the beginning, in your book it is just written Rabindranath Tagore, but when I was addressing him, I addressed him as the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. Why did I add these two words, Nobel laureate? Because Rabindranath Tagore was a person in the British India when Indians did not even have the right to learn English until and unless we need to work for the Britishers. Not every Indian was allowed to learn English. At that stage, when we were spending a life of slavery under the British, at that stage, Rabindranath Tagore acquired the level of English where the Norwegian Nobel Prize community decided to give him the Nobel Prize for writing poems in English. There is a book named Gitanjali which is a collection of more than 100 poems, almost 103 poems written by Rabindranath Tagore, which were originally written in Bengali and later translated to English and compiled in a book Gitanjali, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. So we call him the Nobel laureate, Rabindranath Tagore. Now, another aspect of Rabindranath I would like to share with you all, that is the Britishers used to follow the policy of divide and rule, which you have read in history. So he would divide the Indian society. To certain people, they would give a lot of respect, call them as Sir so-and-so, Lord so-and-so. So they would be the Nobel Society, the Noble Society, not the Nobel, sorry, the Noble Society, and others would be commoners. So this way they would divide the noblers and the common man. So they tried to bestow the title Sir to Rabindranath Tagore, but Rabindranath Tagore rejected it on the basis of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. He wrote a letter in reply to the royal family of England that I will accept the title Sir. I would love to be called as Sir Rabindranath Tagore if and only if you can confer the title of Sir on every Indian man. Only then I will accept. Alone, I don't want to be called Sir. So this shows the patriotism in Rabindranath Tagore. So this way, one by one, all these characters, I will show you how they are related to the poet. So you came to know about his patriotism. Internationalism, he brought India to a respectful position internationally by getting the Nobel Prize. So there are different ways by which, if you say environmentalism, he was very compassionate towards nature. Even if there is a drought or a flood and the crop is destroyed, he would weep for the crops. Oh, poor plants, they died before they could flourish. Even he has written poems on the leaves which fall off in the fall season. So he was every bird, he has written poems on birds, every bird, every flower that bloomed, every bird that sang. created a poetic feeling in his mind because he was environmentalist. Liberalism. This poem, when we read, you will understand to what extent his thoughts were liberal. He did not believe in any kind of discrimination. He belonged to a very high class, rich society, real noble society. But he would play, he would sit, he would eat, he would sleep, he would spend major part of his life with his gardener, with his buggy driver. He did not believe in any kind of discrimination. And if he was stopped, then he would say, give me a reason. Why should I not sit with that person? Why should I not go to the gardener's wife and eat a lunch in her house, cooked by her, served in her vessels, until and unless they are going to make me fall sick and die? If it's not going to make me sick, if it's not going to kill me, then why should I not eat? So this was his logical reasoning. So he was liberal in his thoughts also, which will be depicted in his poem. Now, before I start teaching you the poem, I will recite the whole poem for you. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Now this is the poem which Rabindranath Tagore wrote with a tone of prayer, which is spiritualism. Spiritualism means moving on the path of knowledge, religious knowledge. So that is what is spiritualism. So he wrote it in the tone of a prayer. But the theme of the poem is patriotism. Usually tone and theme match with each other. But in case of Rabindranath Tagore's this particular poem, the tone and the theme do not match. Because you see, Rabindranath Tagore lived in British India. In British India, there were people who expressed their patriotism in different way. Patriotism only does not mean that you fight for your country, give up your life, and you are given the title of a martyr. No, that's not the only way you can be patriot. There are different ways by which you can express your patriotism. You can do it by writing dramas, writing stories, writing novels, writing poems, drawing pictures, writing motivational articles. Writing literature is a way by which patriotism can be expressed immensely. So Rabindranath Tagore expressed his patriotism through his poems, his dramas, his short stories. So this is one such poem. That is why, as I explain to you, I have only recited the poem for you, I will also explain it to you. As I go on explaining, you will realize that each line has the tone of prayer and the theme of patriotism. Each and every line in the poem. As I explain to you line by line the poem and the figures of speech, then you will understand what I mean by saying that the tone is prayer and the theme is patriotism. The figures of speech which you will commonly come across here is imagery, personification, metaphor and semi-talk. Imagery because it creates an image in your mind. It is also known as figurism, but you don't use the term figurism for writing, only use it for understanding, because according to your board syllabus, you have the term imagery used here. It creates a figure, an image in your mind, so it is known as figurism or imagery. When you read this poem, you start imagining a scene. In some of the very first line itself, You imagine a person standing. So that creates imagery, so comes in the figure of speech imagery. Your first line is, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. That means the person whose mind is free of any kind of fear. He is confident and he stands or walks with his head held high. So it creates an image in your mind where a person is standing erect, his shoulders are straight and his head is held high. He is confident, he is not afraid, he is not shy, he is not burdened with worries, he is confident. So this creates an image in your mind, and that's why we say the figure of speech imagery in this is used in this line. So the poet here dreams of a true Indian who is not under the burden of any kind of fear and is walking, standing confidently with his head held high. When knowledge is free, now this is metaphor over here. Because you know knowledge is never free. I am not talking about the monetary side. See, to acquire knowledge, you have to pay your hardship. You have to wake up, walk out, in search of knowledge, acquire that knowledge and retain it in your mind. Only then can you get knowledge. You cannot get knowledge but just lying down in your bed in your bedroom. You have to pay your hardship to acquire true knowledge. So knowledge here is free, means here the word free does not mean you get it without spending for it. It means that your mind is free to acquire knowledge. It is not under the pressure of any kind of fear or in any kind of bondage. When the entire country is slave to the British rule, how can knowledge be free? Another thing, here also the poet means the knowledge should be free of any discrimination. That is exactly the kind of knowledge sharing that we have in our country today. When there is a preacher or a mentor who is imparting knowledge and there is a receiver who is receiving knowledge, there is no barrier of religion, caste, creed, gender, anything. So it is free of all this bondage. That is what the poet dreamt of, and that is what we have acquired in democratic India today. When we want to impart knowledge or acquire knowledge, nobody wants to know of any kind of discrimination. So the next line is, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Here again metaphor, the figure of speech, metaphor is used. Now what is metaphorized over here? Here the world actually represents the world of thoughts, not the globe, the world, the earth, a part of the solar system. No, we are talking about our thought, the world of thoughts, which is not broken up into fragments, means into small pieces. That means with discriminative thought. There are no, now really domestic walls means what? Here again imagery comes in. Domestic walls are the walls in between a chain of houses which separates the houses of different owners. Now their discrimination is needed. How much land belongs to whom? But in our thought there should be no kind of discrimination. As I talked previously, that knowledge should be free. It should not be under, like when a mentor is imparting knowledge, should not check out who the student, it should be only thought that it's a human who is sitting in front of me. Same with the student should not think about the caste, creed, gender of the mentor. It should be free of all these discriminations. That is what is expected here. So you have metaphor, highly used in these two lines. Next to that you have the sentence, where words come from the depth of truth. Now here, when we say depth of truth, here personification is used, because truth is abstract noun. It is not a concrete noun. It does not have a shape or size. If it does not have a shape, then how do you measure its depth? It's not your geometry that you will take a scale and in centimeters or meters you will measure the depth and find out the volume of the object. No, my dear students, it isn't that. Here we are talking about the abstract noun truth. Its depth means it is measuring how truthful is it. That is what it is measuring. That is what it is. So where the words come out from the depth of truth. So it is personification which has been used over here. Where tireless, the next line, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. Here the figure of speech synecdoche has been used. Synecdoche means what? A part presents the whole and a whole may present the part. Here I would like to give you the example of a cricket match. A cricket match, when it is played, it's only 11 citizens out of the billions of the country who is going on the ground and playing. But suppose they win the match. Then we don't take the name of those 11 cricketers and say they won the match. What do we say? India won the match. So there, the whole of India represents a small little team. In the other way, just like when I talked about Rabindranath Tagore, I said India got the respect of getting the Nobel Prize, whereas it was Rabindranath Tagore alone who got it. So again, there too we have used synecdoche. In the same way, let us say a person is very tired and very sleepy. So in a very poetic way, if we want to say, then we will say, oh, the sleepy eyes. Now, are the eyes sleepy? No, it is the person on the whole who is sleepy. But the eyes are representing the person who is feeling sleepy. So this is what is synecdoche. So here you have metaphor, you have synecdoche, everything used in this line. So where tireless striving stretches its arm. Who is tireless striving representing? It is metaphor. It is representing the people, those who are working hard to achieve something. Here directly it means a person achieving success, maybe for farming, or a doctor trying to save a patient, and a builder trying to build the building. That is what is the direct meaning. But if we consider the in a metaphor way, the metaphorical meaning, it implies to the people, those who are striving hard to make the country India free from the bondage of the British rule. Now directly the poet cannot explain it that way, because if he will do that, the Britishers will catch him and throw him into the jail, that you are motivating your countrymen to fight against us. So Rabindranath Tagore very intelligently gave the tone of prayer to the poem. So he simply said, oh, I am praying for the best of the people. Whereas he was actually motivating. So the theme was patriotism, where he was motivating his countrymen. So where tireless striving stretches. Tireless striving here implies to the Indians. Its arms means the hands. Here it is synecdoche. The hands of these people mean the people as such. Towards perfection. Towards perfection means to the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is not just freedom from Britishers, but also freedom from discrimination, superstition, everything. Total freedom, perfection. So there are people, you know, when we were fighting against the British, it was not just we were fighting to make our country free from the British rule. Even there were people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who was fighting to make India free from superstition like Sati Daha. That is, a woman is burnt alive along with her husband after the death of her husband. or a woman, if she is not burnt along with her husband, then she is taken and left somewhere in the jungle so that she meditates, or God knows she is eaten away by the lion or tiger, no one ever bothers. So this is all, she is left into the jungle. Go and meditate, you are a sinner, you have lost your husband. So now you have to meditate and purify yourself. God damn it, must be lions and tigers, eat them away. So this is superstition which does harm. So simultaneously, along with fighting the British, Indians were also fighting against such superstition. Discrimination, as I already told you about the life of Rabindranath Tagore. He was born in a royal family, but he removed all discrimination, went and had lunch in his driver's and gardener's house. So India was just not fighting against the British, but also was fighting against superstition and discrimination. So all the people, those who were fighting to abolish all these three things, bondage from the British rule, then superstition, discrimination. So here the poet dreams of freedom from all these things, not just from the British. The next line, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way. Reasoning, what is the meaning of reasoning? Logical reasoning means whatever you say, you know why you are saying. What does it mean? Like there are people, those who will say, काली बिल्ली रास्ता काट गई. You ask them, काली बिल्ली रास्ता काट गई तो क्या हुआ? वो नहीं बोल सकते. वो बोलेंगे, नहीं मेरी नानी ने कहा था. नानी को जाके पूछेंगे तो नानी बोलेगी मेरी दादी ने कहा था. काश वो दादी भी जिंदा होती, उनको पूछने से वो बोलती मेरी माँ ने कहा था. So it will go on in a chain system. It has come down from our ancestors, so we are saying it. But what is the logical reasoning? No one knows. Such statements which do not have a logical reasoning are known as superstition. But there is another kind of superstition, like at the door. Nowadays, everywhere we can see it, hanging it. But what is that? Is that lemon and chilies? Now that never misinterpret it to be superstition. That has got a very scientific logical reasoning. Now if you know lemon, concentrate lemon, it can save a person from dehydration. If a honeybee or something which is alkaline, whose sting is alkaline, stings you and you squeeze lemon juice on that, you are saved. Same with chilies. Chilies eaten are too many. That's why you see those hangings have 7, 9, 11 chilies. Because if so many chilies, a person who has been bitten by a snake or a scorpion chews it at a time, then the chemical reaction which takes place inside the body keeps the person surviving, keeps the poison under control until and unless the person reaches the doctor. In the olden days, what we will call as Vaidya. So here there is, now I gave you two old traditions. One is of the black cat and one is of the lemons and chilies. So one has a logical reasoning, scientific reasoning, but one does not have a reasoning. So we should follow the ones which have a logical reasoning. And logical reasoning only and only comes with true knowledge. So here Rabindranath Tagore dreams of a society where true knowledge is there, because of which logical reasoning is there. And that is why he says, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way. It is there, it has not lost its way. Into the dreary desert sand of dead habit superstition, where superstition has not overpowered man so much that logical reasoning has died away. He does not dream of such an India. He dreams of an India where logical reasoning is there and superstition has died. So here again metaphor, dead habit is nothing but superstition. Then you again have the line, where the mind is led forward by thee. Here metaphor is used, personification is used, mind, synecdoche is used, many figures of speech in the same line. Mind represents the whole. So it is Senedoc. Metaphor, because again it is representation going on, taking the place. Metaphor means taking the place. And led forward, personification, because mind is abstract noun. It cannot walk and move forward. But here what the poet is saying, mind is led forward. Mind doesn't move forward. Moving forward is a human or living quality. A human can move, an animal can walk, but a bird can fly and move forward. But mind, which is abstract noun, brain is a concrete noun, but mind is abstract noun, so it cannot move forward. So personification is used here. By thee, T-H-E-E-D. This word in Old English applies to God. And here it applies when we consider the tone of the poem to be spiritualism or prayer, then it applies to the Almighty God. But when we consider the theme patriotism, the word T-H-E-E-D implies to the countrymen. Led forward by thee, led forward by your reasoning mind. Into ever-widening thought and action. See, when our mind is led on the path of true knowledge, where there is no superstition, no discrimination, then what happens is our thought widens. We think broadly, not narrow-minded. When we are superstitious, when we are discriminative, we are narrow-minded. So the poet does not dream of narrow-mindedness. The poet dreams of widened thought. For example, in the olden days when superstition and discrimination was followed, say 150 to 200 years ago in our country, if a person comes at our doorstep asking for a glass of water, the person will ask from inside the house, "Oh, hello, what is your name? What is your surname? Which religion do you? Oh, you belong to such and such a religion. Oh, you belong to such and such a caste. Oh my God, you are not speaking my language. I can't serve you water. I am very sorry, dear." But in today's world, we don't do this. We don't think anything. Oh, the person has come to our doorstep. That's a human. He's thirsty. We have to serve him water. That is our thought in the modern world. Because we are free from discrimination. We are free from superstition. That is what the poet is dreaming here. Widening thought. Into the heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. Now, what does my father mean here? Again, metaphor is used. My father. Father is a term actually in the Christian world addressing God the Almighty. So, if we consider again the tone to be prayer, then father means God. But if we consider the theme patriotism, father implies to the entire menfolk of the country, all the men in the country, who should act like father and spread the wide thought of no superstition, no discrimination, motivate, inspire everyone for true knowledge. That is how, and only when it is like, that is how the men of the country should be, and only then the country will awaken, the country will develop, the country will evolve and will acquire a respectable position internationally. So, with that, our poem is over. Now you will know how the qualities humanism, patriotism, internationalism, liberalism, environmentalism and spiritualism is imbibed deeply, deeply, deeply into the life of the poet and into this poem. All these thought of him is clear through this poem. So with that, I complete the explanation of this poem, Where the Mind is Fear, written by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. I hope I have been able to make the poem as clear as possible, but still, my dear students, any doubt crooks in your mind like a caterpillar, you are always welcome to contact me and clear your doubts, because I am striving to do nothing but make my students successful. So I will stand by you in all possible ways to make you successful. I don't believe myself to be your teacher, but I believe myself to be your mentor who is guiding you on the path of success. So my dear students, you are always welcome to contact me in case of any doubts that are there in your mind. Please see to it that when you sit to write your exam in March 2021, there is no doubt in your brain. Clear away all your doubts before that. Thank you.